Unraveling terrifying cursed tales from the sinister woods. Discover the hidden secrets. The sun had dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows around Sarah as she walked her two kids to school. The chill in the air whispered of secrets, of an age-old curse that had gripped Maple Hollow. Children often giggled nervously about the missing ones, about the dark woods that loomed like a haunted sentinel just beyond town. Were those stories just that? Fairy tales meant to frighten? But the dread clawed at her gut. After losing her job, nights turned into vicious monsters, lurking in the corners of her thoughts. Old men gathered at the diner, too often leaning close, muttering words like sacrifice and price. That evening, Sarah overheard them talk about a pact made long ago, one that tethered their community to a malevolent entity. Chills shuddered down her spine. It was just superstition, she whispered to herself, gripping her children's hands tighter. As she made her way home that night, her car sputtered ominously, gasping its last breaths a few blocks from her house. Dusk engulfed her as she stepped out, the world around her slowly transforming into a labyrinth of shadows. She noticed the trees by the road, fierce and forbidding, their trunks marked with symbols that seemed to shift in the gloom. Instinct screamed at her to flee, yet she could not abandon her thoughts for her children. Arriving home, a cold foreboding settled in. The silence hit her like a slap. "Kids," she called, dread flooding her veins. The house was empty, the air stagnant. Panic gripped her heart. Where were they? Outside, the town felt distorted, familiar faces evaporating into shadows as she sprinted down the street, her own neighbors turning away, guilt painted on their features. Finally, she rushed to the police station. "My kids are missing," she cried, desperation clawing at her voice. They waved her off, chalking it up to a tired mother's dramatics. "They're probably just playing," one officer said, barely looking up from his desk. But she felt the cold indifference suffocate her. The very people she turned to had abandoned her cries. Driven by desperation, she bolted toward the woods. The air thickened, the trees whispering secrets in a language too ancient to understand. Each snap of a twig underfoot echoed with her heartbeat. Hushed voices circled her mind, memories she didn't own tugging at the edges of her sanity. This wasn't just about her children anymore. She was tapping into something deeper, something dark. As she pressed deeper into the woods, the path twisted around her, each step pulling her toward the heart of the forest. Heart racing, she stumbled across an unnatural clearing, illuminated by the sickly moonlight. What awaited her was a gathering of figures standing in a circle, their faces obscured by hoods. Whispers rose around her, creeping into her consciousness, stories of loyalty, of betrayal, of sacrifices demanded under the pale gaze of the moon. Standing before them, Sarah's breath quickened. Their murmurs were unmistakably tied to her family's history. Then came the chilling words. A choice needed to be made. Would she sacrifice her own blood to save herself? A cold sweat trickled down her spine as dread mounted, the woods closing in around her, thick as fog on a winterous night. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The figures loomed larger, shadows dancing as they beckoned closer. Sarah could feel her heart thumping wildly, each beat a reminder of what was at stake. In that moment, she had to decide: stand against the sinister forces of Maple Hollow or surrender her children to the town's dark legacies. As the night wore on, terror coiled around her, imprisoning her in a decision that could change everything. What fate awaited her if she dared to challenge the sins that bound this cursed place? The air thickened, almost suffocating, as the figures closed in, their whispers twirling dangerously like smoke. Sarah's mind raced, a tempest of thoughts crashing together. Her children, they were out there somewhere, helpless, while this ritual played out like an ancient nightmare. "Join us," the voice was melodic but sharp, slicing through her panic. It wrapped around her, squeezing tight. The others began to sway rhythmically, their cloaked forms moving as if choreographed by some unseen force. Each movement felt like a beckoning, an invitation to join their dark congregation. "No!" she shouted, desperate words spilling from trembling lips. Her voice echoed in the clearing, swallowed almost instantly by the surrounding trees. A chill gripped her heart, her courage flickering like a dying flame. Then, just as swiftly as panic gripped her, she felt an unexpected surge of defiance. "I won't give them up." The commitment struck her like a lightning bolt, igniting a flicker of hope amid shadows. The figures halted, their shadows freezing as if her words had struck a chord. The silence was unbearable, broken only by the beating of her heart. One of the hooded figures stepped forward. The air shimmered, shimmering with an ancient energy, and she glimpsed a pale face beneath the hood, eyes like dark pits. They held an uncanny depth, revealing eons of wisdom and malevolence wrapped tightly in their gaze. "You speak of defiance, but you know the price. There are sacrifices you cannot fathom." The figure stepped closer, and Sarah felt the weight of his words tighten around her like a noose. "Your children will suffer for your choice." Or perhaps his voice turned soft, tempting. "You become part of our circle. Secure their place among us." Fear skittered across her skin. Could there be a way out? The stories she heard of fate sealed under the light of the cursed moon spun into question in her mind. She took a shaky step back, then squared her shoulders. "I won't let you take them." But the ground beneath her trembled, the thick underbrush whispering of dark secrets, and shadows swirled at the edges of her vision, beckoning her to succumb. Her children's faces flashed before her, innocent, trusting. A wild thought broke through the dread. If the community had kept this dark legacy, then perhaps the community could break it. Hadn't Sarah overheard enough over the years to weave their histories together? The town held the key to the sin, and maybe she could unearth it in a moment of clarity. She yelled, "I'm not alone. I will gather the town. We will end this together." Her voice, emboldened by fear, sliced through the eerie stillness. Light flickered as the moon peeked from behind dark clouds, illuminating the clearing. The figures shifted. Sarah could sense their discontent, but underneath that, uncertainty. "No one has returned from the woods who stood against the pact." Another voice boomed, deeper, resonating in her bones. It was a warning, a challenge. "But I will," she shouted back, the forest seemingly responding to her defiance with a gust of wind that rustled the leaves. As if summoned by her resolve, the trees creaked, branches twisting like gnarled fingers reaching toward the heart of the night. Shadows flickered, and for a split second, doubt crossed the cloaked figures' faces, revealing their vulnerabilities. The air crackled, thickening with tension. And just as she thought she might win this battle, a piercing scream erupted from somewhere deep within the woods, a sound all too familiar. It shattered the moment, twisting her stomach with dread. Sarah, echoing with her children's voices, the sound of terror rising like smoke. Her heart sank. They were here, trapped in the thick tendrils of darkness. The turmoil of choices lay heavily upon her. The figures shifted again, growing restless. "Time is running out," they whispered in unison, their chilling words merging with the screams of her children. Dread burned within her. The forest closing in it was now or never. The very choice that could save her children or bury them was poised. At her feet, what could she summon to save them? To battle the curse? As Sarah faced the darkness ahead, she knew that uncovering the truth of Maple Hollow would come with its own demons. She took a deep breath, steeling herself for what lay beyond the shadows. With the echoes of her children's screams pounding in her ears, she took a step deeper into the forest, the path ahead shrouded in fear and dark promise. What would the town's secrets reveal? Would she find an ally among the cursed residents? Or would she confront all alone the dark heart of Maple Hollow? The forest engulfed her as she pressed forward, the towering trees looming over her like silent sentinels ready to consume her whole. Each step felt treacherous, the damp earth softening beneath her feet, threatening to swallow her. The screams of her children blended with other sinister sounds, rustling leaves and distant growls that were more beast than whisper. "Sarah, help!" The cry cut through the night, sharp and visceral. She quickened her pace, eyes darting from shadow to shadow, praying her legs wouldn't betray her as panic clawed at her throat. What monstrous fate awaited them? The moon hung dangerously low, casting a pale light that flickered unsettlingly through the branches, distorting her surroundings. Everything felt wrong, out of place. The very essence of the woods seemed to pulse with an otherworldly energy, taunting her with an ancient evil. Was this where her children were trapped? Did they hide among twisted roots or curled leaves, waiting for her to rescue them from the darkness? She fought to suppress the rising tide of despair. Thoughts of their innocent faces haunted her. She could not let fear consume her. She had to find them. A sudden rustle to her left made her heart race. She turned sharply, breathless. The shadows shifted, morphing into shapes that seemed to dart in and out of the light. It was as if they were alive, conscious. Her body screamed to turn back, but that was not an option. "Mommy!" The cry penetrated the grip of terror, a beacon of hope slicing through her dread. "Hold on," she shouted, voice trembling but fierce. The woods filtered her words, echoing them back in mocking tones. Gritting her teeth, Sarah plunged deeper into the woods, fueled by the desperation clawing at her heart. A single thought echoed. If she didn't find them, they were lost forever. The images of the figures from before invaded her mind, the darkness in their eyes promising suffering. Yet somewhere, hidden deep within the evil, might lie a clue, a weakness she could exploit. The trail narrowed. Branches snagged at her clothes like skeletal hands. The screams now morphed into agonizing wails, layered with sinister laughter that sent ice through her veins. The familiar chill of dread threatened to ground her, but she wouldn't falter. Not now. She refused to give in. A sudden blaze of light broke through the trees, a flickering glow like candlefire, spilling onto the twisted ground. It beckoned her closer, illuminating an altar draped in dark fabric and adorned with jagged stones. Something wicked stirred nearby. Sarah, the voice twisted around her, serpentine, lingering like smoke. It was the figure from the clearing, the one with the dark pits for eyes, now unmasked. "You should have joined us. Yet here you are, looking for something that cannot be saved. Get away from them," she spat, heart thundering as fury ignited within her. This was the enemy, but the figure merely chuckled, spinning around, revealing a circle of swirling shadows gathering behind him. The air thickened with electricity, and the ground trembled again, pulling her closer to the altar's edge. The edges of reality furled and sputtered in the gloom, showing flashes of her children, their terrified faces blurring in and out with every heartbeat. A realization struck Sarah. She didn't just need courage, she needed power. She remembered the tales of Maple Hollow, how the townsfolk once had the strength to rise against the darkness. Perhaps they weren't all gone, perhaps there was still hope hidden among the cursed whispers. "Reveal yourselves," she demanded, voice steady amidst the chaos. "If I am to confront this darkness, I will need your strength. I am not alone." In the distance, a wail from her children morphed into something else, a siren, a beacon in the storm. The shadows halted, their dance momentarily ceased. As Sarah stood at the center of the gathering dark, she felt the ground under her tremor softly, pulsing with life and desperation. What if the power of Maple Hollow awakened within her? She planted her feet firmly, heart racing, ready to fight, with everything inside her. The price for salvation lay fresh in her mind. What would she have to sacrifice? Would her call bring allies, or would it only summon more darkness? As the wails crescendoed into a deafening chorus, she spotted movement just beyond the altar. Figures emerged from the shadows, familiar faces from her town. Fear and hope danced in her chest, and the question echoed in the air, laced with urgency. Had she summoned salvation or unleashed a new horror? The moment hung heavy, ready to shatter. Would she uncover the truth or fall victim to darkness that overshadowed it? The figures stepped forward, their faces twisted in expressions of agony and longing. They were people she recognized, neighbors, friends, faces from the town that had once been a haven. Now, each one seemed touched by something dark, something hungry. Sarah, one of them, whispered, the voice dissonant, blending hope with despair. It was Julie, her daughter's best friend. Help us please, the shadows behind the altar surged, growling and whispering incoherent phrases that sent ice coursing through her veins. They cannot be saved, the figure sneered, its eyes glinting like shards of glass. Join us, Sarah. Only then will you understand. Her heart pounded in her chest. It was a choice, a deal with the devil or an attempt to break free from its grasp. She couldn't abandon her children. Her soul screamed against the thought. Yet the sight before her was both familiar and terrifying. This wasn't a gathering of salvation. It was a congregation of the damned. What did you do to them? She shouted, voice raw with desperation. I will not join you. The figure laughed, a sound that echoed deep within the forest like thunder. You misunderstand. They're with us now, bound to the forest. They live in torment, yes, but they are alive. They serve a greater purpose. Darkness wove through the air, coiling around her limbs, heavy and suffocating. The wails grew louder, a cacophony of despair from the townsfolk, pressing in on her. She felt the cool breath of the night wrapping around her, threatening to stifle her courage. But in that swirling chaos, a flicker of light glimmered, a memory, a vision of her children laughing, their faces lit with joy. I won't give in, she shouted, more to herself than anyone else. You don't own them. With every ounce of strength, she pushed against the darkness. The ground trembled beneath her, and a surge of energy coursed through her veins, electrifying her senses. I call upon the strength of Maple Hollow, the unity of my people. You will not take my children from me. The air grew still as her proclamation echoed into the night, reverberating off the trees in an unsettling rhythm. Shadows crackled and hissed, retreating slightly. For a heartbeat, everything paused, as if the universe awaited her next move. Foolish woman, the figure seethed, frustration laced with contempt. They are beyond your reach now. The forest hungers, and it will not be denied. From the corner of her eye, she caught a glimpse of movement. A flicker from the altar, strands of light weaving through the darkness, threading toward her, grasping for her will. Sarah, mommy! A scream wrenched from the shadows, a child's voice, unmistakably her youngest son. The shadows recoiled, the fellowship of the damned momentarily disrupted. No, she cried, lunging toward the altar. She felt the surge of power pulsing thicker, stronger, lighting her path. I will take you back. I will bring you home. With one desperate, determined cry, she pulled her arms wide, drawing in all her strength, all the love she had for her missing children. The air thickened with energy, swirling around her, electrifying every inch of her being. The figures faltered, their features morphing in fear as the shadows drew back from the enchantment she seemed to wield. Then she heard it again, a chorus of terrified wails erupting from the heart of the forest, rising in pitch and intensity. Other voices, voices of those who had been lost, blending into her son's cry. They were coming for her, drawn by the light. She felt a fierce pull, as if the ground wanted to swallow her whole. Help me, she breathed, and the power surged again. Suddenly, the dark figure lunged at her, shadowy hands reaching for her throat. You cannot fight the hunger of the woods, she shrieked, but she was ready. Watch me, Sarah roared, and with a fierce thrust of her will, she ripped apart the veil that separated her from her children. A blinding light erupted from her hands, illuminating the forest in an incandescent glow. She felt the weight of hope bearing down on her as she whipped around to face the gathering uproar. Behind her, breathless and raw, but as the wave of brilliance exploded, shadows dissipated. Yet the cries filled the air, echoing her fears. How could she save her children when they lay trapped in the very essence she sought to conquer? From the depths of the brightness, a new shadow emerged, a silhouette forming against the radiance. Waiting, watching, The figure smirked, almost mocking her efforts. You think you've won? This is only the beginning. As the light pulsed, she realized the fight was far from over. Darkness still clung to the edge, and the truth dripped into her mind like poison. What if rescuing her children came at a price too great to pay? The air grew heavier and she stepped back, heart racing. What awaited her in the too bright light? A shiver ran down her spine. She wasn't just fighting for them. She might need to fight for herself. And that shadow? It reeked of ancient secrets still to be uncovered. What bargains did it hold? What would it demand of her next? The light swelled around Sarah, a shimmering barrier that fought to repel the encroaching darkness. She felt a strange but powerful connection to the radiant energy, as if the essence of every soul touched by the forest pulsed through her. But even as she pushed against the malevolent force, fear clawed at her insides. The shrouded figure before her chuckled, a sound sickly sweet that twisted the very air around them. You think you can light up this darkness? Childish hopes. Your children are merely echoes now, and echoes follow the fate of their shadows. Stop, she shouted. Bring them back. But the figure only leaned closer, shadows pooling around its feet. You haven't even begun to grasp the truth. Each spark of light you create will snuff out like a firefly trapped in a jar. Each word fell like heavy stones. She could sense the truth behind it, the very real possibility that her efforts might lead to nothing. The faces of her neighbors twisted in anguish echoed in her mind, becoming unbearably loud. Desperation bloomed inside her, tangling with anger and confusion. Suddenly, the cries of her son cut through the chaos, sharp and clear. Mommy! Mommy! Help! Each plea lashed at her resolve, igniting a fire within. She focused on the warmth of her children, that love which had fueled her strength so far. I will not stop, she vowed, her voice steady despite the trembling in her hands. I'll fight until my last breath. With renewed determination, Sarah closed her eyes for a brief moment, summoning each flicker of hope within her. The light thickened, becoming a tangible force that surged toward the darkness. For a brief heartbeat, she felt the shadows recoil, swirling, battling. The glow of her spirit pushed back against the consuming dread. But then, the ground beneath her trembled violently. She heard whispers, promises of surrender and sweet temptation. Images flashed before her. A home filled with warmth, laughter, and peace. Visions of her children playing in the sun, their laughter a salve against the encroaching fears. Join us, Sarah. Your children will know true joy here. The dark figure hissed, hands stretching out, weaving shadow like silk. You could have it all if you just let go. The struggle within her intensified. What price would she pay to have her life back? What would it mean to live in false light? No, she cried out, feeling the piercing presence of despair. You can't trap me like this. I will break free. The forest moaned in response, its breath palpable against her skin. Tendrils of black reached toward her, caressing and urging her closer to the familiar faces of her friends. Sarah shook her head violently, her heart pounding with dread. She wouldn't succumb. She felt a painful tug at her mind, pulling her deeper toward the figures, their lost faces. Could that be her future if she failed? At that moment, she felt something shift in the air, a new presence. Not the dark figure lurking near the altar, but something ancient, something powerful that hummed along her skin. A figure materialized behind her, white and glowing, much like her own essence, yet different, stronger. It was silent yet resolute, radiating warmth that fought the overwhelming cold engulfing the woods. Trust in the light, it whispered. Who are you? She gasped, barely registering the strangeness of the voice. An echo of hope. I was captured too, and like you, I fought. The presence intertwined with her own light, reinforcing her, urging her to stand taller. Your fight is not over yet, the figure continued. The forest nourishes its hunger with fear. Face it. You must not only fight for your children but for all those who have been taken. You must gather their strength. The realization struck her like cold water. She wasn't in this alone. She could tap into their essence, their love, their joy. But would they answer her call? And just like that, A storm of determination surged through her. She could feel the flickering spirits within the woods, their sorrow a guide to the path ahead, but each one chained by the shadows of despair. "Join me," she cried to the void, her voice echoing into the night. "If you're trapped, let me light your way home." Her arms stretched outwards, light radiating brighter than ever. The warmth flowed through her, spilling into the shadows like a burst of sunlight through heavy clouds. The whispers from the dark grew louder in protest, an angry swarm as the darkness recoiled. Sarah thrust her hands forward, summoning all the love, all the courage, and all the memories she had. Within her heart, she felt the flutter of hope reignite, pure and unyielding. But even as light shattered the darkness, a sinister laughter echoed from the depths, chilling her to the bone. "You've only just begun to play this game, Sarah. The forest is not done with you yet." A tremor pulsed through the ground as if the very roots were shifting. Figures from the past writhed, their eyes now entrapped in darkness, hungering. Could she truly save them? Or would they drag her into the abyss alongside them? Fear tightened around her throat, and her heart raced. Panic surged in as reality crashed down. The light danced violently, threatening to fade against the looming shadows. What awaited her in the depths of that sinister forest? Would she become another wraith lost within its dark embrace? Or would she emerge victorious, against all odds? Each choice led deeper into an unfathomable darkness, and time was slipping away. The ground shook violently, sending Sarah to her knees. The shrouded figure's laughter echoed in her ears, a cacophony mixed with the cries of trapped souls, each wail clawing at her sanity. Shadows danced around her, writhing like living creatures desperate to clutch her limbs. "Do you see them?" The figure taunted, pointy fingers gesturing toward the thrumming darkness. "They're waiting, just waiting to drag you down into the stain of despair." She shut her eyes, trying to block out the tormenting noise, focusing instead on the warmth of the pure presence behind her. "Help me," she whispered, her voice barely audible amid the chaos that threatened to drown her. "They are drawn to your light, but they crave your fear," the glowing figure murmured. "You must transform the terror into strength. Let it fuel your fire." Breathing deeply, she opened her eyes once more. The horror pressing in on her felt like a vice, yet there was a spark of resilience ignited in her chest. It was there, deep within her, the echo of her children's laughter, their bright faces shining in her memory like stars against a night sky. "Fight back," she shouted, her voice rising above the tumult. "I will not give in. I will light your way." As she unleashed her spirit, white light burst forth in jagged shards, slicing through the oppressive shadows. The earth trembled beneath her, but for every inch of darkness her light touched, glimmers of lost spirits flickered back to her. They were hesitant, as if weighed down by chains of despair. "Please," she pleaded, "believe in the light. Let it guide you home." Slowly, the wisps began to gather around her, uncertain, yet drawn to her resolve. Each moment felt like an eternity, and Sarah could feel the dark figure squirm as her light pushed against it, clawing desperately to keep her contained. "You think they will follow you?" the figure snarled, its face twisting grotesquely in the dark. "They are lost, just like you will be." In that moment, as shadows lunged, Sarah felt a sharp pain grip her heart. She stumbled, the surge of her light faltering. Memories flooded her mind, visions of her family, moments of joy now tinged with grief. Her body trembled, torn between fear of endless darkness and the hope of light. "Remember, Sarah," the glowing presence insisted. "Remember who you are." With renewed fervor, she clenched her fists, focusing on the pulse that ran through her. She anchored herself to each joyous memory, allowing love to surge through her veins like electric currents. She would not let darkness consume her, not now, not ever. "Join me," she cried again, this time with unshakable conviction. "I'm here for you, let the light break these chains." A cry rang out among the shadows, a yearning that shook her core. Below her feet, the ground crackled and hissed as tendrils of light extended outward, awakening spirits trapped in the darkness. One by one, they flickered like fireflies, reluctant yet drawn to her guiding beacon. A symphony of whispers filled the air, joyful, hopeful, redemptive. She saw their faces, eyes wide with wonder, drawn away from grip of shadows, seeking freedom. But their escape fueled the dark figure's rage. "No! You cannot leave. I will take her instead," it shrieked, a fury erupting like a storm. The shadow surged forward, clawing at Sarah's ankles, seeking to drag her down into the depths. "Fight it, Sarah!" A voice rang out stronger than before, and she realized it belonged to the shimmering figure beside her. "Believe in them. Believe in the light." Her heart thundered in her chest as the weight of the shadows pressed down. With a primal scream, she raised her hands higher, energy crackling as she pushed back against the darkness wrapping around her. "Together," she shouted, summoning the spirit's essence. Each flicker, each memory wove together, creating an unbreakable tapestry of light. But just as hope ignited like a blaze, the ground beneath her rumbled again. Twisted screams rose from the shadows, resonating with malice. The dark figure reeled back slightly, a momentary flash of uncertainty crossing its face. "Do you think you can stop this?" The chuckle reverberated, dark and cruel. "You've awakened something more than your memories, something ancient, something hungry." The shadows shivered, gathering strength, and Sarah felt the temperature drop, a chilling dread spreading through her bones. As the darkness pulsed, a new, ominous figure began to emerge, larger, more powerful, its eyes glowing with an insatiable hunger. What had she unleashed? Would they all be devoured by this new terror? The light flickered, and doubt crept in as she faced this new horror. Was she strong enough? And would the spirits still trust in her? The shadows loomed closer, wrapping around her, daring her to submit. The twisted figure loomed overhead, an unholy mask of despair and wrath, leaving Sarah to question everything she thought was possible. Would the light hold, or was it destined to flicker and die? She braced herself, knowing that deep within the heart of the forest, the final battle was just beginning. The darkness swirled around Sarah, a suffocating blanket of malice wrapping tighter like a vice. She gasped, the cold air biting at her lungs, her heart galloping wildly in her chest. The new figure was massive, its presence almost tangible, radiating a despair that pulled at her very essence. "Run, Sarah!" the glowing figure shouted, its voice cutting through the din like a sharp blade. "You can't fight this alone." But where could she run? A million panicked thoughts raced through her mind, each one crashing against the next like waves against a rocky shore. She was rooted to the spot, the shadows clenching around her legs, cold and clammy. Yet, deep within, the warmth of her memories ignited a flicker of defiance, an ember struggling to spark a flame. As if sensing her inner conflict, the towering figure smiled, its smile wide and cruel, revealing rows of jagged teeth that gleamed in the darkness. "You think mere memories can save you?" it hissed, the voices of her past echoing in its monstrous laugh. Sarah closed her eyes again, wrapping her arms tightly around herself, trying to summon every ounce of strength left within her. She remembered her children, their laughter filling the air, a sweet balm against the suffocating shadows. "No matter what happens," she murmured under her breath, "I will not lose them." A blink of light broke through her closed eyelids, a soft glimmer beginning within. "Embrace it," the glowing presence urged. "Let your love fuel the light." Sarah's hands stretched outward, clenching into fists as she opened her eyes, blazing with a new determination. She channeled her love, her hope, each pulse a reminder that she was still here, still fighting. The shadows recoiled slightly, the malevolence wavering in the face of her growing light. But the towering entity laughed again, dark and guttural. "You really think love can conquer death?" it taunted. "I am the abyss, and you are but a flicker, a momentary blaze before eternal night." With a deep breath, Sarah called upon the spirits surrounding her, pleading silently for their strength. Flickers of light danced closer, their forms growing brighter with each heartbeat. She felt their trust, slowly breaking free from the chains of despair. "Join me," she bellowed, her voice echoing with conviction. "Our light is stronger together. We have no place in darkness." One by one, the spirits began to rise. Their ethereal forms spiraled around her, stitching together a tapestry that glowed with vibrant hues of blue and gold, illuminating the treacherous ground. The shadows around her shrieked, the sound piercing and shrill, as if they were being seared by the warmth of her defiance. "Foolish girl," the creature screeched, its massive figure swaying with rage. "You don't know what you're meddling with." The ground shook violently beneath her again, the stench of despair lingering, but resilience surged in Sarah's heart like a wildfire igniting through her veins. She drew upon every ounce of light and love, letting it pulse within her and burst outward. In that moment, an explosion of luminescence shattered the suffocating darkness. Spirits soared toward the sky, their voices harmonizing as they broke free, creating a whirlwind of hope. The dark figure staggered back, clawing at the air, its power visibly waning, but still threatening. "Not yet," it screamed, an unsettling tremor in its tone. "I will not be undone by you." As the blinding light enveloped her, Sarah felt a connection to something greater, something that woven itself into every soul present. Could this moment of unity shatter the very core of the foul abyss they faced? But a shriek erupted as shadows twisted and writhed in agony, and then everything went black. What happened to the spirits? Had they truly escaped? Mapping the unseen, Sarah braced for the silent encroachment of the looming darkness, knowing that the real battle was far from over. Would the light flicker out, or could she still rescue everything she held dear? Sarah awoke to a chilling silence. The buzzing energy from the light had disappeared, leaving only the smoldering remnants of its brightness. She pushed herself up from the cold, damp ground, her fingers trembling as they brushed against her skin. The oppressive weight of darkness clung to her, as though it had formed a second skin. "Hello?" Her voice quivered, the word a fragile promise against the suffocating void. The shadows answered her with their suffocating weight, hanging heavily in the air. Anxiety gripped her. Where had the spirits gone? The faces of those she loved felt like wisps of smoke slipping from her grasp. Sarah, a faint whisper lingered in the air, barely audible but laden with familiarity. It chilled her to the bone and urged her to move. Heart pounding, she turned sharply, scanning the enveloping blackness for a source. "Is anyone there?" she called, feeling the terror claw at her throat. "Help me!" The voice, eerily close, sent ripples of dread cascading down her spine. It was her daughter, Lily. The sound wrapped around her as if clawing for release. "No!" she shouted, tears stinging her eyes. The shadows seemed to pulse, carrying her pain and fear. Desperation ignited in her. With every ounce of courage, she stepped further into the thick veil of night, each footfall a plea for her daughter to respond. Suddenly, she caught a flicker of movement in the shadows, a sliver of light materializing, forming a vision of her Lily. It danced just out of reach, a shimmering mirage that beckoned her forward with a gentle sway. "Mommy! Lily! Where are you?" But as quickly as it appeared, the light flickered, dimming, pulling farther away. Panic seized Sarah's heart as she sprinted toward it, ignoring the punctured whispers taunting her from the fringes of darkness. "Stay with me." She could feel the abyss clawing at her heels, each second ticking like a time bomb. The voice of the dark figure echoed in her mind. "I will not be undone." "Mommy, please." Lily's cry pierced the air again, laden with urgency and desperation. As the shadows clawed at Sarah's ankles, she grasped the memories, each laugh, every hug, the warmth of their home. They surged within her like a tidal wave. "I want to let you take her." With a roar that reverberated through the silence, Sarah summoned the essence of her love. Light erupted from her body, intensifying with an ethereal glow, illuminating the darkness like a beacon. The shadows recoiled with agonized screams, twisting away from the radiance that poured from her heart. "Lily!" she cried, wilting under the weight of sorrow. In that moment, she heard a voice, softer now, a song echoing through the expanse. "Follow the light, Mommy. I'm here." But the turbulence around her surged again, and the malignant presence pressed closer, gnashing its teeth. "Foolish woman, you think your love can save you?" It shrieked, the ground quaking under the menace of its fury. Sarah's breath quickened as the shadows began to take form, horrific visages twisted from nightmares. They crawled closer, encircling her, blocking out the light and pulling her into their refusal of warmth. Whether you fight or surrender makes no difference. All of them will belong to me. No. Sarah screamed, exuding bravery through her trembling frame. The spirits, they could come back. She needed to reach them. As her thoughts spiraled, the light dove deep into her chest. But something essential crumbled beneath the weight of darkness, the fear creeping back in. The silhouettes twisted, almost human, shifting between her memories and their present horror. Now shatter your bond. Suddenly, the ground gave way beneath her, and Sarah was plunged into an endless abyss, her screams muted by the oppressive dark. Hold on, Lily. I'm coming. But all she felt were whispers pulling her down, the promise of doom surrounding her. Where was the separation between her reality and the remnants of her haunting memories? Would the glowing presence guide her back to her daughter? Or was she doomed to drown in the void of despair? Shadows scuttled closer, eager, hungry. Would she emerge from this resurgence of nightmares? Time was running out. The nothingness enveloped Sarah, weighty and suffocating, dropping her deeper into despair. Every scream she emitted faded, swallowed whole by the void, leaving behind only a sickening silence that twisted like a knife in her gut. She flailed, fighting the oppressive blackness, her hands grasping at unseen walls. Desperation pulsed in her chest, a wild animal desperate for escape. Then, a whisper cut through the dark, a familiar voice sparkling like a shard of ice amidst the shadows. Mommy, don't let go. Lily's words bounced around her head, sending shards of hope through her fractured spirit. Sarah followed the sound, inching forward with tentative steps, her breath quick and shallow. Could she find her daughter? Lily, she called, her voice cracking. The response echoed back, taunting her. Lily, Lily. Shadows morphed around her, laughter bubbling from unseen mouths, a cacophony that mocked her pain. They urged her to abandon hope, to surrender to their dark embrace. I want to give in, she shouted, rallying her strength. Memories surged through her: a birthday party, laughter bright as sunlight, the warmth of Lily's arms around her. The image of her daughter danced in her mind. Lily. Sarah pressed on, the shadows snapping at her heels like ravenous beasts. Each step felt like running through thick mud, resistance pulling her back. The darkness smelled of decay and despair, an odor that sickened her as muddled shapes shifted just out of reach. Suddenly, a flicker of light burst forth, a pinprick glimmering in the void. Follow it, Mommy. The voice, urgent and sweet, washed over her, a balm against her terror. Sarah latched onto this sliver of hope, letting it guide her. But the shadows roared, now coiling tighter around her, black tendrils lashing out, grasping for her weaknesses. You can't protect her. You don't deserve her, they screeched, hissing like a kettle about to boil over. No, I'm her mother, she yelled, anger igniting within her. I will find her. With newfound determination, she pushed through the dark, the surrounding cold biting at her skin. The light flickered again, breaking through the darkness, the outline of Lily shimmering, reaching for her with pleading hands. Mommy, hurry, just a little closer, Sarah urged, stretching out her hand, fingers brushing against the warmth of her daughter's light. But just as she thought she would grasp her, the ground roared beneath her, darkness yawning wide, as if the very earth thirsted for her. The shadows shrieked, we will split them apart forever. A vortex formed, swirling malevolently. Sarah felt herself being yanked, the shadows dragging her back, away from the light that was her daughter. Mommy! Lily's voice twisted, now steeped in terror. The shadows echoed her cry, morphing it into a chilling chant. Forever, forever, forever. Panic surged like molten lava. No! Sarah fought against the pull, arms flailing, heart pounding like a war drum. Each beat echoed a rhythm of terror, underscoring the impossibility of her escape. Moments stretched into infinity. In a desperate surge, she clung tightly to her vision of her daughter, a fragile, sunlit memory against the storm of nightmare. I'm coming, Lily. but the shadowy claws latched onto her, pulling tighter. She was still and yet wild, suspended between realities, a tug of war for her very soul. And then, in a catastrophic moment, she felt a surge of energy, a desperate leap, and everything went black. As darkness enveloped her once more, she realized she had not just surrendered to the void, but also triggered something deeper within the abyss. The wails of despair reverberated, a chorus of the damned, whispering secrets into her ear. Let it consume you, but behind her, an echo carried, a soft laugh breaking through the murmur. It was familiar. Mommy, I'll always be with you. What had she unleashed? And whose laughter echoed in the dark? The abyss answered with silence, but it dripped with anticipation. A new fear gripped her as she felt a cold breeze slither across her neck. Would she emerge from this darkness, or would she become part of it? The abyss stretched infinitely, a chasm of shadows that concealed the whispers of her past. Sarah hovered in a space between terror and the sanctuary of hope, even as despair threatened to drape over her. A soft pulse of warmth flickered inside, a fierce reminder of her children, of Lily. Mommy, I'm here, the voice urged gently, pulling her back from the edge. The light shimmered at the core of her heart, pushing back the creeping darkness that clawed at her sanity. Lily, she gasped, heart pounding. Can you find me? Panic coursed through her veins. Each second felt like drowning, but the flicker of familiarity anchored her. The surroundings twisted dangerously, shadows swirling menacingly as if the forest itself fed off her dread. You will never find them, a baritone voice echoed, layered with malice, weaving through the abyss. This is their cradle now, their home. No, she cried, a fierce determination igniting within. In the darkness, she would not falter. Sarah concentrated, fueling the light she felt like a rising tide. Love pulsed. Memory surged. I will find her, she asserted, eyes wide against the void engulfing her. We are stronger than this. The shadows writhed, shrieking, like fire on fabric. They recoiled slightly, and within that moment, she glimpsed a flicker beyond the dark, the outline of souls ensnared. Was it Lily? Help! The chorus echoed, familiar voices melding with her daughter's, trapped yet yearning for freedom. She pushed against the insistent shadows, fueled by the warmth of their pleas but unsure how to breach the depths where fear reigned. Images rushed forward, Lily giggling, Sarah cooking, night skies filled with adventure moments of pure joy wrapped in love. They came in waves like memories breaking on the shore. Each one ignited her resolve anew. Show me the way, she whispered, summoning courage from the depths of despair. The darkness roared, a chilling wind that cut her flesh, but still, she called forth the light. You will not take us, she thundered, heart racing as ripples of warmth coursed through her, challenging the icy grip of shadows. A brilliant flash erupted from within as waves of light burst from her core. The essence of every soul trapped there, every flickering whisper, surrounded her. Join me, she cried, feeling the bonds of darkness stretch but not break. Together we stand stronger. The shadows writhed in agony, merging with her light, a swirling dance of love versus despair. Whispers intermingled with sharp screams, creating a collision of sounds that echoed in her ears, the chants of the forest battling her resolve. Suddenly, she felt the ground shift beneath her. No, it wouldn't end here. She would not let the darkness engulf her. Mommy, the sweet voice cried out again, clearer now. It imbued her spirit with renewed strength. She wasn't alone, and the spirits were rallying, awakening to her call. And just like that, an army emerged from the darkness, the faces of the townsfolk shimmering as they strived toward her light. We believe in you, they chanted, voices synchronized, creating a reverberation that shattered the dark barrier surrounding them. Yes, Sarah breathed, passion igniting anew. Together, as they fused their light into a collective force, the shadows hissed and recoiled, but their retreat only made the figures stronger. The dark figure before her trembled, its features twisting with fury and fear as they surged forward together. A wall of glowing energy bent on liberation. No, it shrieked, voice like gravel against glass. You think you can extinguish the darkness? I don't just think, she replied, heart soaring. I know. The surge of light bolted through her and, for the first time, she felt certain the shadows were merely echoes of the past, weak against the love they shared. In an overwhelming rush, they propelled forward, the grounds trembling as waves of radiance illuminated the abyss. Freedom beckoned. Sarah reached for her daughter, yearning to unite with her. Mommy! The voice couldn't be closer now, intertwined with the light. The resulting brilliance ruptured. The shadows, fragments swirling away as relief washed over her. She sensed their prison collapsing, bonds shattering under the potency of united hope. Then, right as she thought she had finally seized victory, everything erupted in a blinding flash, melting the dark like morning dew. Sarah squeezed her eyes closed and waited. When she opened them again, she gasped. The forest lay before her, transformed. The trees stood tall, dense with life instead of despair. Yet, one figure that remained distant caught her eye. Lily stood amidst the golden glow, light radiating off her. Mommy! She cried again, arms outstretched. Relief washed over Sarah like a tidal wave, and she sprinted toward her daughter, the warmth of her love enveloping her through the air, binding them together in that moment. And just like that, all the pain of the prior moments evaporated, replaced with joy. We made it, Sarah breathed, heart flooded with elation. Lily's laughter rang like bells, cupping the aching silence. I knew we would. As joy cascaded through her, Sarah looked back at the forest, a newfound confidence blooming within her. The dark has only been defeated for now, but together, they were stronger, a community intertwined, emboldened by their love. Do you think it's over? Lily asked softly. No, Sarah admitted, eyes glimmering. But we will face it together. Every shadow still lingered, but now they held little power. A newfound legacy pulsed beneath their feet, one forged from love, resilience, and hope. Together, she whispered, knowing sacrifice and struggle would only make their bond stronger. The sun broke through the horizon, painting the world with hues of promise, illuminating a future filled with possibilities. They wouldn't just survive. They would thrive, leaving a mark of light against all dark forces ahead. A deep breath freed Sarah's spirit, and hers would always glide with her family tethered by love, unyielding against any darkness they encountered. The legacy of Maple Hollow would finally shift toward hope. Don't just enjoy this journey, be part of it. Subscribe immediately so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to help us beat the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your thoughts on this exhilarating conclusion. And, most importantly, instantly share this video with 5 friends who need this story in their lives. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second. Only true fans understand the importance of keeping this community thriving.